Alright everyone, the moment you all been waiting for. My review on my most anticipated movie of 2019, Avengers Endgame. Yes, the sequel to what I think was the best movie of 2018, its predecessor, Avengers Infinity War, which was 10 years in the making, and man, you already know how awesome that movie was. And, okay, well, first off, I'm going to start with spoiler-free reaction part of this review. And for most of you who haven't seen Avengers Infinity War, you may consider this a spoiler for that film. Not for this film, of course, but I shouldn't consider it a spoiler if we saw the first trailer for this movie that shows footage of what happened at the end of that film, in which, well, okay, you probably all know what happened since it's been out for more than a year now. As you know, it was a battle against Thanos himself to collect all the 6 Infinity Stones and wipe out half of humanity, which, well, he did. He wiped out half humanity of the entire universe, and a big chunk of the Avengers as well, like Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, Scarlet Witch, Nick Fury, Ada Maria Hill, Bucky Barnes, Black Panther, Falcon, pretty much the whole chunk of the Guardians of the Galaxy, except Nebula and Rocket the Raccoon. And yeah, so now it's up to whatever Avengers and whatever people remain on Earth, and it's a post-apocalyptic type world in which, well, they have to try to recover from what Thanos did and try to undo what he did, and, well, fight back. So, that's as far as spoiler part of this movie review that I will get to, and, yeah, all I could say is to keep it short and spoiler-free to the point, because I know I'll get blackballed if I spoil this movie in this part of the review, and, yeah, all I could say was, it was awesome. It was action-packed, it was funny, it was dramatic at some points, tear-jerking, and yeah, that's as far as I'll go. There wasn't one dull moment in this movie that, well, with the exception of the beginning, maybe a little bit with some dialogue scenes, but for the most part, I was hooked for the 3-hour runtime. And yeah, like most of you probably know, yes, this movie is very long. So, come on, people. Seriously. Most of us sat through Lord of the Rings, Titanic, Peter Jackson's King Kong. I mean, I sat through most of those movies without a bathroom break, and I didn't want to miss anything in this movie for what it was worth, because, yeah, it was so worth it. There's so much going on in this movie, just like the last film, maybe not as much, but I kind of expected it for the most part, so there you go. That's a spoiler-free part of this review, and now I'm going into spoiler territory, so for most of you who probably haven't seen this movie yet, you might want to turn the video off now, unless you have already seen it, or if you don't care about spoilers. Otherwise, let's get to it, shall we? Yes. Yeah. As you know, like I said before, Thanos wipes out half the population at the end of Infinity War, and so they have to use, well, whatever they have, and whatever Avengers remain to try to undo it. I love the beginning part with Hawkeye, yeah, because he was one of the other characters, aside from Ant-Man's character, that is not in Infinity War, but at least with Ant-Man, there's a good reason why he's not in it. If you've seen Ant-Man and the Wasp that came out a couple months after Infinity War came out, there's a good reason that, you know, and it ties itself together pretty well with Infinity War during the mid-credits scene, and it shows what Thanos did to the universe, thus trapping him in the quantum realm, to be exact. And so 5 years pass, and he's stuck in there, which to him is only about 5 hours. So it's interesting, you know, physics stuff, almost like Interstellar, kind of. And with Hawkeye's family, obviously, I love how it shows the bonding between him and his kids and his wife. And, like, 1 second he's showing them how to target shoot with the bow and arrow, and his wife's got food on the table, and then next thing you know, they're all gone. And then the Marvel logo intro comes up, which I was a little disappointed to find that it didn't have the same intro with the Stan Lee dedication that Captain Marvel did. But they managed to actually get his cameo in this film. But I wouldn't dare give away when and where it is, obviously. But otherwise, getting back to Hawkeye, yeah, you already know it's like, you know, you already know he wants revenge against Thanos right there, and how he completely loses it. And then all of a sudden, like, everyone's trying to get over this whole, you know, everyone missing problem, but they really can't. So what they try to do at first is try to take on Thanos, and obviously it doesn't work because they realize what he did can't be undone with the Infinity Stones. So it gets even more clever when Ant-Man's character shows up and he gets the idea of time travel, which is really makes the more cleverness into this movie. And that's what makes it really interesting, because they revisit scenes from the previous films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, like from the first Avengers movie from 2012, to collect all these Infinity Stones because they realize they have limited resource to be able to conduct this time travel and to go to all these locations with all the people that they have in their team. They revisit that part of the movie, and it takes an interesting twist and turn because they show those clips from those films from a different viewpoint. They're right behind where Loki surrenders. And yeah, I know, there's going to be spoilers. I already mentioned spoiler alerts, so I don't think there's really any point of doing that. Most of you probably seen these movies. But yeah, you got that film. Because and the concept that they mention, like, oh, don't interfere with our own selves, and, don't bet on sporting events. So yeah, it's almost like Back to the Future Part 2, basically. Hell, they even mention that film. And they even mention all the other time travel movies briefly, like Bill and Ted, The Time Machine, Terminator, and so forth. It's almost like it's self-aware of itself, but it also at the same time takes itself seriously. But yeah, first Avengers movie from 2012, Guardians of the Galaxy, they revisit that scene with Peter Quill, at the very beginning when he's playing that song, Come Get Your Love, and he's kicking shit around. And it's hilarious at the same time because you don't actually hear the music in the background being played because it's being played on his headset. And they're like, wow, what an idiot. And so they have to get that stone. They go to Thor the Dark World, which I know is not a favorite amongst most people, just before Thor's mom dies. And the scene from Captain America Winter Soldier, not really, but then again, it more or less references and homages it, with the whole S.H.I.E.L.D. being compromised by Hydra scenario. And, well, pretty much does that same exact elevator fight scene against the guys, from the Winter Soldier. And, of course, they revisit that same bunker, even though it was actually more in the past. That's where it gets even more interesting, where the stuff is hidden underground in New Jersey from Winter Soldier. And even from last year's movie, Infinity War, the same location, planet, to be exact, they have to get the Infinity Stone by sacrificing someone, and that's where it gets, rather tear-jerking and shockingly surprising. Yeah, the movie is full of lots of surprises for the most part, and it's incredible what this movie... I'm not going to give away who dies in this movie. That, I'm going to stop right there. But yeah, that scene alone, which you've seen Thanos visit, last year's film, Infinity War, and it even gets even more interesting because then Tony Stark visits the past and sees his own father, and yeah, it's great. I don't mind it at all. It definitely shows, like, he's like, oh, you look familiar and all that, and even visit the younger version of Hank Pym from the Ant-Man series. And they steal that, that energy stuff for the time travel machine, and then, man, once it gets to the final battle scene in the last 40 minutes of this movie, and it always seems like these Avenger movies always do that. Last 40 minutes, it's like that big climactic battle is coming, and man, it was just incredible. Absolutely incredible. I mean, wow. You probably know right off the bat that all the characters are going to come back, and just their entry alone is enough to give you goosebumps. It certainly did for me, and that's where you just wanted to applaud. And when Captain America holds Thor's hammer the first time, I was like, damn, that was amazing right there. So it's like, and every character pretty much in this whole climactic scene has their part. They do their part in this whole battle, and it's just amazing. I mean, you couldn't ask for a more epic battle to a big climactic finale of the Avengers series, even though, of course, it's not ending. I mean, you do have another Spider-Man movie coming out this July. Maybe Captain Marvel herself, since you were hinted that she was going to be in this movie, could have had longer screen time. I mean, she's in there at the beginning, and then she comes in at the end, but she doesn't really have a lot, and, well, she does explain that, her absence and that she had to travel all over the universe, and how the universe is a bigger place than they think, but she does have her purpose in this movie, though, don't get me wrong, but I just expect to see her a lot more. And it is definitely better than that stepping stone of a movie. So, but otherwise, it was just so well worth the wait. 11 years in the making, and it paid off so well. But I wouldn't dare give away how it ends. But, yeah, for the most part, I was pretty much glued to this movie for a whole 3-hour runtime, and even the dialogue scenes I was hooked on as well. And some of them are full of surprises even after the battle itself. So, for the most part, yep, I would say it was definitely worth it. Long film, but thank the Lord I didn't drink too much before going to see this movie, because I didn't want to miss a thing, and I'm glad I didn't. The only bad side was my knees were starting to hurt from sitting for so freaking long, but I was glad I started this once, and I would see it again if I had the chance. But damn, I mean, it made so much money at the box office even ahead of time with pre-sales on ticket sites, and the ticket sites were crashing. I mean, it was just blown out of proportion beyond belief. So, yeah, for the most part, it is definitely worth the wait. No, there's no post-credit scene, at least not that I know of, but the credits themselves were pretty clever. You know, how it dedicates, itself over the years to, kind of like How to Train Your Dragon, how it shows clips of characters from past movies in the whole entire franchise, this one in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But, yep, epic finish to the Marvel Avengers universe, even though, like I said, there's more coming, but this one is good enough to be a finish to the whole Avengers get together, and it is definitely worthy of a rockin' 2 Wii remote, so Wii Motion Plus is up. In my opinion, so far, best movie of the year 2019. It is really that awesome, people. Trust me. So, till next time, keep watching.